Okay, so let's start. Well, today is going to be like an introduction for the rest of the course. So I hope this will be fine for you because for this point, we didn't have work with, we haven't worked, sorry, with anything in the Cambridge platform. Or well, that's the purpose on the syllabus. So this is going to be like an introduction. We're going to talk about a general topic in English. So let's start. As you can see, today is our session 2. We're going to talk about topics for week 2. We don't have a specific, let me just see the chat. Okay, don't worry. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. So what I was telling to you, yes, we don't have a specific title for this session because, as you saw in the syllabus, we need to work in 3 units for the next week. So it is pointless to have a specific title because we don't have a specific topic. So the main goal for this session is to talk about topics for week 2. As I told you before, this is our our class of English 3. My name is Juan Antonio Brigido Rivera, and let's start. Okay, the to-do list for today's program. We're gonna see the goal for today's class. Then we're gonna talk about the last week topic, which was again an introduction. So we're gonna remember something about, or we're gonna retrieve something, some of the information that I gave you in the first class. Then we're going to do a practical activity that, as I told you before, is going to be about a general topic in English. Or in this case, we're going to work in a general topic of learning English by yourself or by ourselves, because I think this is important for us since we are in an online class and we are in a totally 100% program that is focused on your own learning. So that's why I think it's important for us to talk about some strategies to improve our English skills by yourself or by ourselves. Then we're gonna have a space for doubts. We're gonna talk about the next week activities. We're gonna do a summing up, which is a summary. We're gonna try to do a summary of the things that we have to do for the next week. And then again, we're going to talk about doubt. So don't worry about the activation code. I'm going to talk to you in a minute about that. And also about all the problems that you may find in the platform, so you can have the general view to which, or maybe in which kind of communication channels you could expose all your doubts or all the questions that arise during the course. So don't worry about that. Let's start with the goal. Okay, today we're gonna, or the main goal for this session is that we will discuss some of the strategies that can help us to improve our second language learning. Okay, we will focus on the question: what are the strategies that have helped you to improve your English performance? Because as I told you in the first class, and as I just mentioned, this is an online program. We only have 1 hour at each week to talk about the topics or the subjects that you learned in the platform. So I think it is important for us to discuss some of the strategies that we need to use or that we can use to improve our English by ourselves. So that's the main point of this session. Okay, what did we do last week? Okay, the main points of last week session was the presentation of all of us. My presentation, as I told you before, sorry. My name is Juan Antonio Brigido Rivera. I have a bachelor's degree in Hispanic literature. I'm also a student in a master of linguistics. The subject, well, in this case, is English 3, so we just have to change that. The subject is English 3. As I told you before, the main purpose of this level is that you gain the B1 level of English, because A1 is English 1, A2 is English 2. Sorry, English A2 is English 2, and then we have English 3, which is English B1 level. So the main goal for this class is that you gain the English B1 level or the B1 level of English. Then we talked about the rules. We are not going to repeat all the things that we said before. The communication channels, probably just the main point is that all the communication, all the doubts you have, all the questions you have, they will be answered via Blackboard and also the email. So I'm asking you to, well, mainly I ask you to ask your questions or to expose your doubts through Blackboard, please. So that's probably the main thing. Then we saw the response time for the messages and also the response time for the activities. As I told you before, it is kind of we have variations there because we don't always have the time to answer at the period of time that the institution asks us. But as teachers, we always try to answer you at the period of time that they ask us to do that activity. Then we talk about due dates, and the main point of this was to make clear the delivery dates. Okay, I think that in this point the main issue that we deal with that we speak about is the last week of the program. Okay, on December we're gonna have a, how can I say this? We're gonna short the last week because we need to deliver the scorings or the qualifications before the main week for the official vacations, which is from December 16th, if I'm not wrong, and then to January. So probably at this point, the main thing that we deal with is the shortening of the final week. Then we talk about the concept of academic integrity, which I told you that it is important for us. In this class, is not so important, but I think we have to consider this concept to manage the Cambridge platform. So that's this was all the things that we saw last week. Let's go with today's activity. Okay. For today's activity, as I told you at the beginning of the class, we're going to talk about main strategies that you can use to improve your English by yourself. Okay, so we're going to watch a video, and then we're going to, sorry. Sorry. We're going to watch the video, and then we're going to discuss the main topics that the teacher or the person in this video is talking about. Okay, the strategies that she used to improve her English, and also the I don't know, some advices that she gave in order for you to gain a better level of English. So we're going to watch the video, and then we're going to discuss the main points that she talked about. Let me just share with you the web page. No, this is
how you can learn a language on your own. Hello guys and welcome back.
okay. Can you hear the video? because that's the problem sometimes with this platform. Can you hear the video? Okay.
To my YouTube channel. Today, I wanted to talk to you about how you can learn a language on your own. It's a very interesting video for me to make because I'm currently learning my fourth foreign language, Spanish. When I was a little kid, I studied French and then obviously English and Chinese in college. I studied Chinese in college. And right now, because I'm living in Mexico City, I have to study Spanish. And it is my fourth language which I'm learning on my own. And basically in this video, I wanted to give you guys concrete steps that you can take to learn English or any other foreign language on your own. A quick disclaimer here, I do take classes with a Spanish teacher once a week. So every single Sunday in the morning at 8 a.m., yes, I wake up pretty early every single day, even on Sundays. I have my Spanish classes with an amazing teacher. She's actually my student from my English speaking club, and I don't know, it just makes the whole process even more enjoyable. But guys, here the most important thing you have to understand is that this class is only an hour long, even like 45 minutes long, and I only take it once a week. So the main progress happens when I study by myself, because if you really want to learn a language fast, you need to study every single day. And I try to study Spanish like an hour each day. Sometimes there are days when I don't study Spanish at all, and it's absolutely fine. But I want you guys to remember this one thing. A tutor is not going to magically make you master a language. They're not going to magically open your brain and put all the knowledge there. It's not possible. You have to do something. And the main progress happens when you study a language on your own. So I guess let's start with me and my Spanish learning journey, because I love using myself as a guinea pig. So basically what I do right now is I'm a complete beginner. I read a lot because my goal right now is to acquire as much vocabulary as possible, to learn as many new words as possible. And the reason why I do this with books and stories is that I genuinely love reading. I think you guys probably know, like I always talk about it, especially on my vlogging channel. Every single time I'm like, oh guys, look, I read a new book. I read this book and that book. Obviously, when I read in English, I feel very comfortable. But in Spanish, for me, it's pretty uncomfortable because I'm not yet familiar with the language and there are so many words I don't know. The second thing I do is I try to listen to podcasts for Spanish learners, because obviously podcasts for Spanish speakers are too hard for me. And I'm a true believer that listening is actually the most important part of language, because not only do you learn new words, but you also listen to how native speakers use them in context, which is extremely important. The third thing I do is I do by using basic grammar books. I actually downloaded one from the internet because for me, grammar helps me understand the structure of a language. And that's basically the whole reason why I do grammar. I realized that I'm a very fact-oriented person and I need to be able to explain why this sentence is structured this or that way, and so that's why for me grammar is important. Personally, I don't think grammar is boring. I enjoy doing grammar, so that's why I do it. And guys, I think you already noticed this one pattern. I always say I enjoy doing something, and that's why I do it. And this is a very important part of anything, really, of language learning, of learning anything, of having any kind of job. You really have to enjoy doing what you're doing, or else it's just going to be a torture for you. And thing number 4 that I do, or actually don't do, is I don't rush to speak. Obviously, sometimes I have to communicate with native speakers living here in Mexico City, but I say very basic words such as gracias, buenas tardes, things like that. I always joke that my favorite phrase in Spanish right now is un matcha frío con leche de coco, which means cold matcha with coconut milk. Because every single time I go to a coffee shop, I order matcha because I don't drink coffee, and also I'm vegan, so I don't drink regular milk. And this is, the phrase I've mastered. On like basic levels, like using words, I can communicate. But for me, it's not my top priority because I know that I need to learn more vocabulary, because I don't want to sound like a kid, I don't want to just say cash, card, and that's it. I actually want to be able to make full sentences. And to be able to do that, I need to listen a lot. I need to read a lot and learn more and more vocabulary. So right now, once I've shared my Spanish learning journey, you've heard me speak Spanish a little bit, you're probably laughing right now, but basically right now I'm ready to share some tips that will help you study English on your own. The first tip, as you guys have probably guessed, is only do something you enjoy doing. So again, as for you, reading is not an option. You hate reading even in your own native language, then don't read. There are so many other ways you can learn new words. For example, if you like listening to music, you can just, listen to music in this language and then translate and then learn new vocabulary this way. My tip number 2 is try to make it into a habit. It's very hard for a lot of people to start doing something. For example, for me, I'm definitely one of those people. It's hard for me to begin doing something, anything really. For example, filming this YouTube video, I'm putting it off, I feel lazy, but once I sit down, once I turn on my camera and start talking, it gets easier. And the same thing with languages. Once you make it into a habit, it will become a part of your life. And, every single day you'll be like, okay, right now I need to learn English, or okay, right now I need to learn Spanish. And you're going to be totally fine with it, and you're going to be ready for it because it's your habit now. Tip number 3, if your English is not high yet, you should focus on learning as much useful vocabulary as possible. And if you do enjoy and rated readers. For example, I really like the ones by Ollie Richards, and I actually have an interview on my channel webcam where we talked about reading and graded readers. And basically, graded readers are the books for English learners or for any language learners that are a little bit simplified. And this way you don't feel demotivated because the book is not hard at all. Tip number 4 is find a native speaker to ask them questions. You can do that by taking just one class a week with a native speaker on italki, for example, and I teach on italki as well, so you can book a class with me and ask me any questions about language learning. Or you can also do a language exchange where you find a person who's going to be willing to teach you English, but in return, you're going to teach them your native language. And this way, it's going to be free for both of you. Tip number 5 is watch and listen as much as possible. If you do live in an English-speaking country, try to notice how people greet each other, what they usually say, because actually right now, living in Mexico, I try to notice how people speak. I try to memorize some of the expressions. For example, a couple of days ago, I was only saying gracias all the time, but then I started hearing people say muchas gracias, and I was like, maybe I should say muchas gracias too. And then, yeah, this is basically how I learned. If you don't live in an English-speaking country, it's totally fine because you can still listen and observe when you watch a movie or listen to a podcast, for example. And my tip number 6 is actually the one that I really, really like. Basically, if you feel like you're a shy person and you're not ready to communicate with people yet, you can talk to yourself, or you can try to name objects in your apartment, or just talk about your day. So for example, you can say what you're doing right now. Like right now, I'm watching a YouTube video. It's a great practice because this way you'll immediately notice the words that you're lacking, and you'll be able to use Google Translate or any other dictionary to look them up and then memorize them. And now, as a bonus thing, let me actually give you a concrete study plan that I personally use to study Spanish, and you can use to study English or any other language really. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, I usually dedicate around an hour of my time every single day to Spanish, and the reason being is that I'm a beginner. For me still, it's pretty hard, so I can't just, sit and watch a show in Spanish and just relax and not think about it. So basically, I divide this hour into 3 different parts. I start with grammar because it requires me to be the most focused, and I do some exercises. I try to learn, maybe make some notes, but the most important thing for me is to actually get the hang of it, understand the rule, and then try to apply it in real life. After that, I do around 20 minutes of reading because I love reading, and for me it's a great way to learn new vocabulary. I'm testing a new way of memorizing vocabulary right now. Sometimes I write all the new words down, for example, in my notebook, but sometimes I don't do anything because I realize that I don't really revise the new vocabulary that often. But if you do like actually revising new vocabulary, you can use Anki, because Anki is a great app and I use it a lot when I was actively learning Chinese. So I highly recommend this app to all of you guys. And I spent the last 20 minutes listening to a podcast or watching a super easy video in Spanish Spanish. And I really hope you guys will try it because for me it works because I really like having those 20-minute intervals when I focus on a specific task. And before I wrap this video up, I just wanted to tell you guys real quick about my Patreon page. Patreon is a wonderful website where you
Okay, let's stop there. I'm gonna post the video on Blackboard so you can watch it when you have time. You can rewatch it when you have time. So we're gonna talk about the strategies that she mentioned in the video. Just let me return to the presentation so we can talk about them. Okay, I liked her video because I think she has a pretty good accent in English. She is not a native speaker. Okay, if I'm not wrong, and if I understood correctly, she's from Russia. So her accent and her pronunciation, she gained that by herself. Okay, she studied by herself, and she gained that kind of fluency and that kind of pronunciation by herself. So that's why I think that her advices were good. Okay, we have here, so we can divide the video into two categories: her advices and her strategies, because it is not the same. Of course, sometimes her strategies are similar to the advices or are equal to the advices, but in general, we can say that she talked about two things: general advices and the strategies that she used to gain or to improve her English skills. So let's go to the chat. Okay. I don't know. Magali, Lorenzo, are you there? Have you ever used some of these advices or strategies? That's the question, okay? Have you ever used some of these advices or strategies? Magali, are you there? No? Teresa Lopez, have you ever used some of these? Teresa Lopez, can you listen to me? Can you listen to me, sorry? Can you listen to me? I think you cannot listen to me. Okay, so please, Magdiel Amesquasor, have you ever used some of these strategies or advices? Can you tell us about it, your experience by learning a foreign language by yourself? Does someone want to participate?
Yes,
Okay,
me.
Magdiel, okay.
Yeah. Well, I have tried to watch and listen some movies
Okay.
in a different language. So in order that I can listen the pronunciation or like the expressions, like native expressions that they use.
That they use. Thank you. And do you think that these strategies have helped you to improve your English skills?
Yes, yes, a
Yes.
lot.
How much? I mean,
Um,
a lot of, or just I don't know, so a little bit.
mm, I think that a lot because um, I recognize that my pronunciation is better than before.
Than before. Thank you very much. Someone
Mhm.
else? Someone had raised their hand, but I don't know if he or she is still available to participate or wants to participate. I think it was Luis Berrocan.
Hi, teacher. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Tell
Yes,
us,
I
please.
yes I have done it some of them before. I've used it, for example, work on vocabulary and find native speakers and watch and listen as much I can radio, TV shows, books I have read, and that's I think that's a good way to improve our skills and that's it.
And do you feel that these strategies have helped you to improve your skills?
Yes, mainly, sorry. Yes,
No worry.
mainly listen to the radio, listen podcast. I think um, I think that if we listen a lot of words that we don't know, we can search the meaning and we can add these words to our own vocabulary.
Okay, thank you. Well, I really liked to bring this to you because I think it's important for us to understand that. I talked to you about this the last week, but I really want to be, or I really want you to be aware of this aspect of learning a language. The main thing, or probably the most common way to learn a foreign language, or not the most common because it is not so common. I mean, the most how can I the word I don't remember the word the most or the easiest way to learn a language to learn a foreign language is to learn by ourselves, okay, because you have to understand that producing and to understanding a language is something that we do by ourselves. No one else is going to understand the language for us, and no one else is going to use the language for us, okay. Of course we can use apps, we can use some other strategies or some other tools. I don't know, in this moment, artificial intelligence, for example, no, or we can use some apps that we have in the cell phone. But in reality, speaking or using another language is an activity that we need to do by ourselves. Nobody else is going to do by us this activity. Okay, so all the things that we need to produce and all the language that we can understand is all it's all on us. Okay, it's all on us. We have to create the habits, to create to appropriate the foreign language. Okay, that's why I think this is very important for us to understand. Okay, some of the advices is only do something you enjoy doing. I think that's very important. And she told something about if you don't like to read, well, don't read. If you like to listen to music, then listen to music in the foreign language. But do something to consume the language, okay? But you probably you need to find an activity that you enjoy, but you need to consume the language. Make it into a habit. It is very difficult, even for me, for example, because I have a lot of work because I have to do a lot of things in my home. It's very difficult to create a habit, but it is important for us that at least, I don't know, probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour to listen to a podcast, to read an article in English. Uh, I don't know, probably that's the main things because we don't have a native speaker to speak to, okay? But probably we can watch a video in English, we can read something, an article in English, we can listen to a podcast, we can, I don't know, watch a program in English because at this moment we have a lot of resources in internet. So that's why I think this is important for us to make a habit, okay? Because as she told before too, a teacher or tutor is not enough, okay? For example, in my case, I'm not gonna introduce all the language in your head. And even if I want, I can because I'm not a native speaker, okay? And not even a native speaker is going to do that, okay? So make a habit. Work on your vocabulary. This is very important for us, okay? She said something about reading, but you can gain vocabulary as she told to by listening to music, by listening to podcasts. Probably it's more difficult to learn vocabulary while listening because you have to pay attention to the pronunciation. But you can do that, okay? find a native speaker. This is kind of difficult, but in this moment, probably at this point of the history, is not such a horrible thing to do or a very difficult thing to do. Okay, you can go to the internet. Probably if you are in a context in which you I don't know, get along or get in touch with a lot of people, with the foreign people, you can find a native speaker to practice your English. Watch and listen as much as possible. I think this is a very good advice, because we have to understand that learning a second language has probably two main sides. The first one is as we said in English, or in the formal speech, the input and the output. Okay, the input is the things or the information that we receive. In this case, watching or probably listening and reading. That's the main. That is our main source of information about the language, by listening and by reading. And then we have the other side, which is the output side. In this case, is the productive side. Okay, speaking and writing. She didn't talk, or she didn't say anything about writing, but it is important for us to understand that, and I'm agree in some degree with her, that the first step to gain a confidence in a language is by receiving the language, consuming the language, listening, reading, and try to as I told you before, to increase our baggage about the language. Okay. Then she said something about name objects around you. Talk to yourself when you don't have a person to interact or to interchange the foreign language. Talking to yourself is something that you can do. It is kind of difficult at first, but then when you get used to it, it's going to be kind of easy. And then also, to do this properly, I think it's very important that she mentioned these three parts of her strategy: grammar, reading, and listening. And if you see, I mean, probably I'm not totally agree. I don't totally agree with her in this point, because she's only talking about grammar, reading, and listening. After this, probably you should write something or speak about something. Okay, because of course in this case you are receiving information. Grammar, for example, she pointed out grammar, which sometimes in some courses and in some visions of learning a language is totally avoided. We don't need to study grammar, we don't need to see grammar, and that's incorrect. Because as I like to say to my students, a language is like pieces of a toy. In this case, for example, I'm not sure if the name is the same in English, but think about Lego, las piezas de Lego. A language is similar to that. Okay, we have pieces, words, phrases, verbs, adjectives, and then we need to put them together to create phrases. Of course, this is more complex than that. But at first, we can think about the language, or we can think on the language with this perspective. Okay, and grammar helps us to uh, to learn how, or the rules of that combinations. Then we have reading, which, as I told you before, is an output an input strategy, and listening input is a strategy too. And then we need to produce the language, writing and speaking. Both writing and speaking, we can correct ourselves while writing or speaking, if we know grammar. Because if we don't know grammar, we cannot be sure if the structures we cannot be sure if the structures that we are using are correct. We have to correct ourselves, and the only way in which we can start correcting ourselves is by knowing grammar. Okay. And then her strategies are almost the same: read as much as possible, listen to podcasts for English learners, study grammar with grammar books. You should enjoy doing what you are doing. And the final one that I really want to highlight: I don't rush to speak. And this is something that is kind of complicated for foreign learners, because we have to understand that that speaking is not an easy skill. It's a very difficult skill because, as I like to tell you to my students, speaking is a skill in which we put all the knowledge we have. We need to play in speaking. We need to move our body. In this case, for example, we need to get used to the movements of the mouth to get the pronunciation correctly. And that's why, for me, it's important that at the beginning we need to speak slowly, because that's the only way in which we can control in some degree the pronunciation. Because it is going to be difficult, even for me in this moment. Some words, some combinations of words are difficult to pronounce, and if I go faster, I'm not gonna take the time to try to pronounce the words or the phrases correctly. Also, when we are speaking, we need to structure sentences, we need to structure information, and that's why we need to think in grammar, and we need to recover vocabulary. We need to recover a lot of things that we have in our head to speak. Speak is the most difficult skill, and it is not because it is I don't know, impossible. It is because in speaking we put all the things that we have consumed. Okay, todas las cosas que hemos consumido las ponemos en juego cuando hablamos. That's why speaking is something very difficult, and that's why I really like this advice. I don't rush to speak. Speak slowly. Speak correctly first, and then we can go for speed. Then we can go for fluency. But at first, try that or get used to the correct structures. Get used to the pronunciation. Get used in phrases in which you find difficult to pronounce the combination of the words. Get used to that, and then we can rush to speak faster. Okay, that's why this is very important. Okay, any comment that you want to say about the things that we talked about just now? Any comment, anything that you want to share with your classmates? Nothing? Then we have any questions, but I already asked a question. Everything understood. Okay. Then we have next week activities. Okay, we start officially with the we'll start officially with the program. Okay, we need to answer or we need to work in 3 units. Unit 1, who we are. Unit 2, so much stuff. And Unit 3, smart moves. For each of these units, we have 2 activities. The first one, a student's course, Unit 1, a student's course, Unit 2, a student's course, Unit 3, and then we have for each of the units, the progress test. Unit 1, progress test, Unit 2, progress test, and Unit 3, progress test, okay? And then, of course, each activity is worth 0.25 hands. Yes, that's the word. 0.25. And then if we sum all of these scores, we're gonna get 1.50 at the end of this week. Okay, so of course this 1.50 is going to be added to the next activities to get the 10 points. Okay, I'm gonna explain this in Spanish so it is clear. Para cada una de estas actividades tenemos 0.25 décimas. Y vamos a ganar al final de esta semana 1.5 puntos, que sería 1.5 puntos. Ajá. Y esto se va a ir añadiendo a la calificación de las siguientes unidades para llegar hasta el 10, ¿vale? En esta ganamos 1.5, en la que viene creo que van a ser 2 puntos, en la de en medio van a ser 3 puntos y así sucesivamente como se los expliqué en la sesión previa, ¿vale? Now, we are going to go with the important facts of this thing. As I told you before, units are larger than they seem to be. So please organize your time. We have to deliver 3 units. And it can be, or it can, yes, it can be seen easy, but it is not easy because sometimes units are larger, are very large. So you have to organize your time so you can get the 3 units delivered on time. Okay. Also, as I told you before, usually at the end of the period, coordination asks us to to uh, to widen the delivery time, the due dates of the activities. So don't worry about it. But I don't really think that it is a good idea for you to delay the 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 submissions. So please try to organize your time. I don't have access to all your answers. As I told you before, I only have access to the final tasks of the exercises. So all the scores are generated automatically. Okay, only at the end when I finished to scoring, when I finished to score the things or the tasks that I should score, then the scoring that I assigned is going to be added to the automatic scoring. But at the beginning, all the scores are generated automatically. Okay. Also, you must have activated Cambridge platform from Blackboard. This is very important for us. Okay, you need to activate Cambridge platform from Blackboard, because if you activate Cambridge platform outside Blackboard, Blackboard is not going to be connected to Cambridge platform. And so the scores that you get on Cambridge platform are not going to pass directly to Blackboard. So be very careful with this. With this access code, okay, this is the point that someone mentioned at the beginning of the class. I have access. I haven't checked the list that the coordinator shared with us, but she shared with us a list in which it is supposed that I have the access code of all of you. So if you don't have the access code, send me a message on Blackboard, and then I'm gonna search your name in the list, and then I'm gonna give you the access code so you can access to Cambridge platform. So don't worry about that. Just send me a message telling me that you haven't received or that you couldn't. I don't know. I don't know if you created. You couldn't create the access code. And also, in some cases, I received a message. I received messages about some problems with Cambridge platform. The first message that I received said that I wasn't assigned to the course, but I don't know if you have, if any other of you have had this problem, that you don't have a teacher, that the platform says that you don't have a teacher in the activities. Or all of you have done the exercises without any problem? No? Okay, this again, I'm going to repeat in Spanish because I think it is very important for us to be clear. And as I told you before, even if I'm good in English, my English is not so advanced, so I can probably be totally understand. So I'm going to repeat this in Spanish. Cosas importantes. Las unidades son más largas de lo que parecen, lo que les había dicho al principio, ¿vale? Hay que organizar nuestro tiempo para que no nos ganen las actividades. Son largas, no lo parecen, pero son largas y no sería padre dejarlo hasta el final porque es muy probable que no nos dé tiempo de terminar, ¿sí? No tengo acceso a todas sus respuestas, ¿vale? Solamente tengo acceso a los final tasks, que son los que yo puedo calificar. Por lo tanto, en general, todas las calificaciones se generan automáticamente. Solo al final se le añade esos puntos que yo agrego a los final tasks que ustedes, que yo tengo que calificar. Tienen que activar la plataforma de Cambridge desde Blackboard, ¿vale? No fuera de Blackboard, porque si no, si lo activan desde fuera, no se va a conectar la plataforma con Blackboard. Y entonces ahí es donde vamos a tener el problema de... ok, vamos a tener el problema. Las calificaciones no se pasan de Cambridge, de la plataforma de Cambridge hacia Blackboard, ¿vale? Calificación de manera manual. ¿Qué ocurre con los códigos de acceso? Aparentemente, todos pueden generar su propio código de acceso en la página. Pero parece que hay algunos problemas con algunos estudiantes. La maestra o la coordinadora nos envió una lista con los códigos. Yo no he abierto esa lista. Teóricamente tengo acceso a ella. Pero si no, de todos modos, yo le pregunto y ya ella me las dará directamente. Pero si a alguno de ustedes les falta el código de acceso, mándenme un mensaje por la plataforma para que yo les pueda dar el código de acceso y ya no vaya a haber ningún problema. Otra vez repito, lo que sí debemos cuidar es que se conecten las dos plataformas para que las calificaciones migren directamente de Cambridge a la plataforma de Blackboard. Y les preguntaba si habían tenido algún problema con la plataforma de Cambridge porque por ahí un alumno me había dicho que les aparecía que no podían enviar las tareas porque no tenían asignado un maestro. Pero no estoy seguro porque hasta ahorita no he revisado si ya me asignaron y ya no tienen este problema o si a alguno de ustedes les ha parecido esta leyenda. Ah, ok. Entonces quiero saber si ya se solucionó o si todavía les aparece este problema de que no tienen asignado a nadie.
A mí me aparece bien, profesor. Y sí me está pasando las calificaciones.
Okay,
Lo que sí, que en el de bienvenida no pasó nada y sí hice la actividad. Así pasó en inglés 2. Tampoco nos calificó la bienvenida.
Ah, sí, esa actividad no cuenta. Recuerden que si van a ver el programa, de hecho vamos a verlo de una vez porque no lo vimos la semana pasada, ¿ok? Y I'm going to explain the program to you so you can understand why this scoring wasn't migrated to the Blackboard platform. Just let me go there, and I'm going to explain this to you. In the Welcome tab, you have here. Let me just share. Yes, you have here this information. Okay, you have here this information which we discussed broadly the last week, so we're not going to return here. But you have here the course organization, and you have here first of all the units that you have that you need to deliver by week. For example, here it says that for semana 2, week 2, we need to deliver unit 1, unit 2, and unit 3. And you have here the weighting of each of the activities. And as you can see, in any of these parts of the syllabus, you have the welcome activity. So welcome is an activity that you need to do to understand how Cambridge platform works, okay? But this is not an activity that that is going to count to the final score of the course. And so if you need or if you want to know which is the organization or the activities that you need to deliver for the following weeks, you just go here. As week 3, we have to deliver, or we need to deliver unit 4 and unit 5. For week 4, we need to deliver unit 6, unit 7, and unit 8. For week 5, we need to deliver unit 9, unit 10, and unit 11. And the last week, which is week 6, we need to deliver unit 11 and unit 12. And here you have the points that you gained for each of the activity. And if you sum all these points up, you're going to get at the end the 10 that you should or you must obtain at the end of the course. Okay, so that's why the welcome activity doesn't have any qualification or any scoring. Okay. Any other questions that you have about the Cambridge platform or anything you want to ask? So for the ones that doesn't have for the ones that don't have the access code yet, please send me a message and I'm gonna search your access code and then I'm send it to you. Just let me return to the presentation so we can finish our course. Well, our class, not our course. Okay, summing up. Mhm. Abraham Torres. Abraham Torres. Can you please open your microphone? Because I want you to answer this question. Could you do a summary about the activities you must do for next week? What do we need to do for next week? For Monday of the next week?
We need to finish unit 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm. Okay, how many activities do we need to deliver?
If we count the test, we need to do 6.
6 activities. Thank you very much. So that's it for the next week. Next week, we are going to review, or we're going to try to review. I don't know if we're going to do that activity because I think that probably it's going to be more, how can I say this, more enriched. It can be, yes, I don't remember if this is the word, but it can be better for us to do activities like the one that I did today. But I don't know if you agree with this. You want to review the topics that we're gonna see in the units, or probably do you want to work with other materials like the one that I bring you today, the one that I brought you today? I don't know. What did you want? To review the activities or okay, the units. Okay, then we'll review the units. Okay, any questions about the things that we need to do for next week? No? Okay. Then at least, well, at last but not least, let's talk again about the integrity, the academic integrity. Just let me take a screenshot because it is. Okay. Yes. Okay, ya, ok. 5 principios que promueven la integridad académica. La justicia, que ya lo hemos visto, permite evaluaciones objetivas que reconozcan la veracidad y el amor por el aprendizaje. El respeto impulsa las relaciones respetuosas entre los estudiantes, los profesores y el personal administrativo y a todos los procesos educativos. La responsabilidad promueve la capacidad de asumir las consecuencias de nuestras acciones y decisiones. La confianza propicia el reconocimiento de nuestras propias capacidades para alcanzar objetivos. Y la honestidad implica ser consciente e íntegro hacia uno mismo y hacia los demás. As I told before, academic integrity is just to respect, to give the credit to the institution or to the person or the I don't know, the intellectual or the researcher that is giving us the information or that is provide us with the tools. In this case, for example, Cambridge is providing us with a Cambridge platform in which you are working on. So I think it's important for us to respect that Cambridge is giving us or is creating that tool for you to learn English by yourself. So that's why we need to talk about academic integrity. Okay, thank you so much. Our final phrase is: the only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. Okay, so if you don't have any other question or any other comment, see you next Tuesday. Thank you. Have a great week. Thank you so much. See you next Tuesday, guys.